Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Now, I don't know if you were ever involved in a fight, in a physical fight with someone else or some others in the same time, like, I don't know, multiple attackers, uh, considering that you were defending yourself. So I don't know if that happened to you or if it didn't. If you were trained in, physical confrontations like martial arts, boxing, judo, karate, whatever is going to be over there. Now, if you were involved in this kind of man-to-man fights, you realize that there's many ways to try to win the battle, the fight. But the main one is to incapacitate the opponent. Sometimes you just by fighting you destroy the person's spirit, so it's going to be just uh, stopping fighting. That's one. The other one is knocking that person out, or maybe causing an injury, like, I don't know, breaking an arm or something like that, breaking a few ribs in the process, or who knows what, and you incapacitate the person, cannot fight again anymore. Or, as I said, you just turn the lights off and that's it. So we have here NATO, United States of America, Al Capone, and Russia. And it seems like the war that is in Ukraine is just I punch you, you punch me, but you can punch me here, I can punch you there. It's a controlled war. I think that this will escalate into hitting the heart of the enemy, which is knocking that person out completely. Not incapacitating the person, but knocking that out. So how can you do this in this war, let's say Russia with NATO or United States of America? Well, look at the engine. So obviously for us humans to function, we need air. That's the main thing, air. That means if you strangle someone, that person will pass out. So you should go to the neck, or I don't know, hit him in the neck, grabbing him and choke him, something like that. Correct? Correct. Or I don't know, punch him in the liver, punch him in the plexus, and he's gonna be without air. In the liver, it's gonna be just incapacitated for sure. So you go to the air, right? No, you need the air. So what is the West's air? Because we know they tried with Russia with all kind of sanctions. Right. So what do you do? In the case of, let's say, United States of America, what do you hit in order to destroy the monster? Well, you hit the financing business, the banks. I guarantee you that if the Russians hit the financing, the banks, the Americans will talk to the Russians. And that's exactly what the Russians are doing. They started with the JP Morgan, freezing their assets. And the other one now, they start with the Deutsche Bank. Now, these are two of the biggest banks, international banks on this planet. Deutsche Bank and JP Morgan. Russians, again, they attack now the heart of the monster, according to them, which is Deutsche Bank. Now let me show you. On the 25th of April 2024, I made this video. Russia seizes JP Morgan's bank's assets in Russia, retaliatory seizure for funds. And I said here, Russia hits US where it hurts the most, banks. And that's true. That's true. And we have this article from today from DPA International. Russia freezes foreign bank assets after sanctions halt project. So attacking the air, you're gonna have the person pass out. So I think once you hit these guys, you don't have to hit them militarily. You hit them with the supply of air, in this case banks. I think the biggest profiteers of this war are the banks, international banks, not the international banks. And then is the military-industrial complex, which is a rocket, I think, with arms manufacturing companies receiving all kind of contracts, billions of dollars of contracts. So how do they survive? By creating war. I mean, by being lucky enough for governments to start or to be in self-defense in war. Correct? Correct. And then the third one is the energy. In this case, the energy. Because without energy, energy is again like air. You cut the energy, you're gonna go back in the caves. You don't have wood, and I'm not talking about that kind of wood. It was unsuccessful, sorry. Let's put a bigger caliber. Boom! Let's see if it's coming again. All right, let's see. So, the energy the same. You don't have energy, you can't operate an industry, you can't heat your house, you can't cook food, you can't do anything. Let's say you don't have any. So that's energy and money. So let's see what this article has to say. DPA International. Russia freezes foreign banks. Opa! Ăsta nu e tata. Deutschland Bank. There you go. An arbitration court in St. Petersburg has frozen the assets of several banks in Russia, including Germany's Deutsche Bank and Commerzbank, another one very big, after the planned construction of a terminal, which Deutsche Bank had helped to guarantee, was cancelled. Why? Because, banks are not into making profit. They are just good-hearted people, as institutions that are doing good. Okay, that's the way they are. So they said, well, Russia, you are bad dudes, we're going to cancel this because, says who? Now, if a bank is trying to do this to someone else, a bank at the pressure of whom, doesn't it make you just wonder maybe these guys are part of the whole thing? A bank can be made like Deutsche Bank, who actually owns governments, can be made by one of these governments to implement sanctions or cancel constructions of a terminal. Can they be? Or they are at this and they try to strangle Russia, thinking they will not retaliate, or the Russians can't. This is a very arrogant view. Or, should try bazooka now? No, change his mind. A little fucker on a little bike, motorbike. All right, so let's see. The court action was taken at the request of Rus Kim Allianz. It sounds like a Gazprom subsidiary operating an LNG terminal on the Baltic Sea. Yeah, because LNG is related to the Americans providing LNG to Europe now that the Europeans impose sanctions on themselves by saying that by 2027 they will have no more Russian gas. So how the racket worked? Europeans used about 40%, I think, gas from Russia, about, if I remember correctly, or more, 40%. And the American says, well, we can't compete with those guys. Our energy sucks and it's going to be at premium cost. We have to bring liquefied natural gas. Now, how can you bring liquefied natural gas at 3 to 4 times the price of the Russian gas? Well, not improving your product by eliminating the competition. So they did. They told these imbeciles in Europe, hey, impose sanctions on you. You're immoral if you don't. Okay, you just dropped 2 atomic bombs, but you're moral. Thank you very much. So anyway, so they imposed sanctions and to get away of those guys. But they need it. The demand was still there. The economies were still walking, with a limp. Anyway, so then who came to save them? The Americans, who told them to impose sanctions on themselves. And the Americans sent liquefied natural gas. Now, they can't compete with that one, it seems, because they are having this bank canceling a project, for example, one example of liquefied natural gas Baltic Sea terminal. So they want, again, to eliminate competition, not to compete. But hey, we're capitalist. We're free people in free countries. No, we're not. No, we're not. Very limited kind of freedom and liberty that we have here. More than others, but far, far from where they claim we are. Let's be nice. Not that I care, but I think there were good words over there. The company is claiming 239 million euros, $260 million against Deutsche Bank, according to the report by the Russian state news agency TASS on Saturday. The assets blocked are securities belonging to Deutsche Bank and other companies in which it holds an interest, as well real estate and money in bank accounts. This represents only part of the bank's assets in Russia. What the hell? Let's try with this one. We'll find out soon. All right, let's move on. This represents only part of the bank's assets. Only part. This is just a little punch, You don't want to kill the beast yet. The court has previously also frozen bank accounts and assets of the Italian bank Unicredit in Russia. Other lenders are also affected. The move comes after a terminal construction was cancelled due to Western sanctions. the banks had helped to guarantee the project. Well, remember when they said the contract is a contract? Remember when the Europeans told the Russians about gas and oil, a contract is a contract. You can't retaliate to our sanctions. No, you can't do. A contract is a contract. That was in April, May 2022, if you remember. And now the banks had helped to guarantee the project. Well, they can pull out whenever they want after they, okay? Remember Trump with that atomic energy resolution, or it was a resolution, it was a between Iran and European Union agreement that Trump came and said, yeah, my country signed that, but guess what I'm doing? A contract is a contract? I guess not. Whenever you're strong, you don't have to follow rules. So remember that one. But it seems like only one, two, you got Israel too, cannot really, actually they go straight. The other ones had to do this. And if they dare to copy these guys, no, you're immoral, man. You're immoral. We have to destroy you. Ruskim Alliance wants 444 million, so half a billion euros from UniCredit. Assets worth 463 million euro are to be frozen. Deutsche Bank stated that it remains to be seen how this decision will be implemented by the Russian courts and what consequences this will have for the bank's operations in Russia. And I'm quoting, we see ourselves as fully protected by an indemnification from a client, the bank said in a statement. The bank has provided a provision of around 260 million euros, a corresponding reimbursement asset under the indemnification agreement. Okay, forget about it. Yeah, right here. After Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, the West imposed sanctions. Linde has informed its clients that the work has been stopped. There you go. Bye-bye. The banks that had acted as guarantors for the deal also withdrew their guarantees due to the sanctions. See how things work? In addition, the Deutsche Bank, the UniCredit, Commerzbank, Bayerische Landesbank and Landesbank Baden-Württemberg were also sued before the arbitration court in St. Petersburg. Unlike UniCredit, however, these companies did not have major branches in Russia. German companies have lost billions in investments in Russia as a result of the sanctions. Yeah, great. So then what's happening now? You can say, well, how come they impose sanctions on themselves, the banks? But you say they are the bloodline, they are the heir of these guys. Well, they are. They are the financiers. Now, I'm pretty sure this is just here. You see how many German and Italian banks? The Germans were the one that I just mentioned. How many were over there? Commerzbank and Bayerische. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Six German banks. And then the Russians had a problem with JP Morgan, and it was enough at that moment. So, oops, that's not what I want, right? I don't even know what that was. But anyway, here it is, my friends. I think the Russians are going to show the Western, the financiers, let's put it this way, the guys in charge. Because I think at the top, way at the top, the banking system. It seems like we cannot live without the bank anymore. In everything the government does, we need a bank. That tells me that your finances are bad. Your economy is bad. You are bad. You are managing our economy in a bad way. If you need loans all the time and you have creditors as international banks and you are sold, you're a slave of the international banking system. If you always owe something to these guys, you owe something. I mean, imagine you make, let's say, $100,000 a year and you have $120,000 loans. That means if you have $120,000, about that, now I think it's about 140. It's 40% over our budget. This guy's budget. We're not in the same boat, remember. We are here, they're over there. So we are at the receiving end and so on. So if you have, let's say, 135, I'm nice, 135,000 interest loan with high interest, and I make 100,000, that means what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Where am I going to pay that? How did I get in that kind of debt? And that debt is not because I just bought a house. because I continue to borrow, I continue to print. That's a different racket here too. So I continue to borrow from these guys. They give me. That means something is not working fine. Okay, how am I supposed to pay my loan if I work in a deficit? I consume more than I produce. Imagine as a household, you make $100,000, but you let every year you consume $120,000. So you go in debt every year. Where are you going? Who's gonna pay for that? Or are you gonna just say the military arrest all those guys and we start over by default? I mean, remember, the banks are a tool. They're not the main guys. We made the banks first because they held our money in a safe place. That's how you gave the money in the first place. And they use it. And then they lend it to you money that they didn't have, backed by anybody. Remember, they can lend at least 10 times of how much reserves they have. So let's say they have $1, they can lend to you about $10. Up to $10 they can lend. No, can you do that? No. So we made those guys, and now somehow, as a tool, like you have a knife, and somehow the knife that you use to cut bread or whatever you do, slice it, that becomes more important than you. It tells you what to do. Who made who? Like a AC/DC song. Who made who? Who made who here, actually? Now let's see. If we die, if people die, there's no more companies. What do the banks do? They die. The fucker is coming again. What can you do? Well, freedom, right? All right. You don't like it? Move it. Yes, that will happen. So, who made who? Look at, for instance, even Adam and Eve. No, Eve was created out of Adam's rib. Correct? Correct. Now, an organism, a body, can live without a rib. Take a rib out. I can live without a rib. Fuck the rib. But a rib out of the body, organism, cannot survive. That tells you something, if you know what I mean. So the same here. Consider the bank being the rib. And somehow the bank, is like a tick. The tick without the organism cannot survive. It's going to die. The organism without the tick is going to survive. It just sucks blood. And somehow the tick becomes more important than all of us. Why? Because of money. So I think the Russians are on the right track here, and they're just attacking the Western countries. And the Western countries at one point will have an economic crisis, and then we'll have people in the street. And then probably, maybe, who knows what's going to happen in the West. And then how it dismantles also the European Union the same way. And who's going to take over? The helpers with the LNG, which are the Americans. Or not the Americans, because we're not free here or there. No, the interests that harnessed, that enslaved America and use it as a bully boy around the globe wherever they can. Wherever they can. And that can direct you to a different location. Why do you think America has no power against, let's say, Israel? Why do you think that's so? I mean, it has power over everybody else, imposes sanctions, bombs, changes regimes, goes into proxy wars with this and that. But with Israel, it's just talk. Why do you think? Well, I know why. You know why. Thank you very much for being with me again today. And then, banks. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.